Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, friends of Japanese prints. I'm Dieter Manschura. I'm the owner and manager of the Artlino company. Welcome for another video produced by my little company, artlino.com. We are located in Bavaria in southern Germany, near the Alps, in a rural area. But this video is not about telling where we are located. Today, the subject is I want to introduce an important artist from the Meiji period. His name is Chikanobu Toyohara. Meiji period, well, that lasted from 1868 until 1912. And that was a period of transformation, of transition from, well, you can say a medieval Japan to a modern Japan after Western patterns. And of course, also the art of Chikanobu reflects this transition. With Chikanobu Toyohara, we have two artists. Yeah, one was the traditionalist, the retrograde artist, and the other one was the modern artist. And in which way? Well, for his technique, he used modern methods. Yeah, he tried to go on new trails, whereas the subject is very nostalgic. Chikanobu Toyohara, he was born in 1838 and he died in 1912. That was precisely, by the way, when the Meiji period ended. Meiji period named after the name that was chosen by the Japanese emperor, and he chose the name Meiji, the Enlightened One. And Chikanobu Toyohara, he studied under Toyohara Konichika. And I want to mention it because this is often a subject of confusion, because Konichika is another famous printmaker of the Meiji period, but a contemporary of Chikanobu. And the guy where Chikanobu studied, just by coincidence, has the same name, Toyohara Konichika, like his colleague. I already mentioned technique, style. Chikanobu tried new things that you will never see on prints of, let's say, by Hiroshige or by Kunisada. Well, here you have an example which is quite good. For instance, Chikanobu is praised very much by historians and by art critics for the way how he tried to show mist or clouds. Visible here, you see, well, here this is a kind of mist, and often on Chikanobu prints you can see something that is in the background. It seems to disappear behind a wall of mist, something you would never have seen on an ukiyo-e print from the first half of the 19th century. He also liked to experiment on that quite a lot. He also made, let's say, quite a few of average prints, as some art critics say, well, to pay his rent, yeah. The Meiji period was not so quite simple for printmakers. In a commercial way, ukiyo-e printmaking was a little bit on the decline during the Meiji period, because it was partly replaced by photography. It was on the decline commercially, yeah, and the artists had to fight hard to make a living. On the other hand, on the technical level, printmaking during the Edo period, Yoshitoshi, Chikanobu are good examples, Kyohika, Kobayashi, was the technical skill of the carvers and the printers was higher than compared to the first half of the 19th century. I already mentioned the traditional, the retrograde aspect of Chikanobu. This was mainly in his subjects. Many of his prints deal with the history of Japan, with legends of Japan, also the imperial family. The imperial family was something that sold well. Yeah? Emperor Meiji and his family were actually rather popular among the common people. And Chikanobu, he had published two famous series. One is called Outer Chiyoda Palace. Chiyoda Palace was the residence of the emperor. And one series, pictures from the outer palace, and the other one from the inner palace, where he tried to show the secret life of the imperial family. The Chiyoda Palace was not open for the public. Before I now try to give you a list, well, we have an article where you can read all that. I now want to show you just a few examples of his prints. Well, an image is more worth than 1,000 words. So let's take a look what we have next. Well, this is from the series Snow, Moon and Flowers, probably the most important series of Chikanobu, or the best known series. This is has roughly, I think, 50 prints, the whole series, and it deals with the past of Japan, with legends, with history. There we have 4 examples. Let's take a look at one here. The series is characterized here in the cartouche. There's always an image somehow from the past, and some of these images in the cartouche, they remind me a little bit of old European prints. And Chikanobu certainly picked up aspects of European printmakers as much as European artists, mainly the Impressionists, the French Impressionists. They had picked up a lot what they have seen from Japanese prints when the first Japanese prints came to Europe during, well, after 1860, 1870. French Impressionists, they were crazy about Japanese prints, and many of them collected Japanese prints. Let's take a look at the next one. Oh, that's the same. Okay, and that is from the series Jidai Kagami. A typical old ukiyo-e subject, Bijin, beautiful women. But Utamaro made them completely different. Utamaro showed the courtesans, the prostitutes from the pleasure quarter, whereas Chikanobu shows, in this series, he shows women from different periods, but he shows them in a rather modern way. Let me take a look at that. Well, that is not comparable, let's say, to Utamaro. And I told you about the technical level of Meiji prints. This is a good example, yeah, for the high technical standard. Look at the fine way how the hair here is done, or this bokashi, this gradation, yeah. I mean, you have gradation also on Edo prints, but not with this elaborate way. Let's take a look at another one. That's the same. Okay, and that is from the series Chiyoda Outer Palace. Yeah, well, there he shows the glorious past. It shows the visit of a shogun and his entourage to a temple. Next one, and that is from the series Inner Palace. There you see the fine ladies in kimonos. There are quite a few. You find them usually in the form of triptychs, and these were quite popular among the Japanese, and they sold well. Yeah, of course, also a reason for an artist of the Meiji period to produce a print. These guys had to pay their rent. Well, we've come to the conclusion. And here, my friends, at this point, I wanted to show you a book, but I forgot it in our office. So not real, but the image of the book cover. And I have to tell you something else. Until the publication of this book, there was hardly any information about Chikanobu available, not on the internet, not on any books. As a collector, you didn't know much about him. And then this book came out, and I have to mention the author, Bruce Coates, Professor Bruce Coates, a collector of ukiyo-e himself. I can recommend this book very much. It's heavily illustrated. It shows at least excerpts from the major series, and has a lot of information about Chikanobu. Well, so much for today. Thanks for watching, and take care of yourself, and I hope to see you for our next video. Goodbye.